Hey friends, welcome back to my channel. Today I want to show you how to make this super cute vinyl scrap tumbler design that I came up with. So if y'all know me, you know I hate to throw away vinyl scraps. I will save every little piece because I feel like you can always make something cute out of it. So whether that's a keychain or a badge reel or even combining some coordinating patterns to make one super cute tumbler, the options are literally unlimited. So grab your vinyl scraps and join me and let's get started. So one of the great things about this design is even though I'm working with full sheets here, this is ideal for using up scraps. So you can do this on any size tumbler that you choose to use. I'm going to be working with a 20 thickum today, but feel free to use anything you have laying around that you want to use up. My 20-ounce thicka measured 7.5 inches, so I went with a 5-inch centerpiece for my tumbler. So whatever size you choose to use is great. Just make sure you cut it the same length on both sides. Then you can see here I'm just going to make creases at all the points because I want a nice straight line to follow, because we're going to cut off the little tails and make a nice little sort of geometric section. Okay, I'm going to give you a little freeze frame of the clear ruler that I'm working with so you can see how there's a grid on it, okay? So that center line is going to line up in that crease just like this, and that's going to help me keep my edge straight. So I can measure a perfect 1/2 inch, 1/4 inch, 1 inch, whatever I decide I want to lop off of the end of those to make my little geometric square in the center. But that middle line is going to keep it right perfectly in my crease so that I get even symmetrical edges everywhere. Now, of course, you don't have to do this the same way as I do, but you do have to find a way to make sure all of those edges are even and symmetrical. Because once we're done with the other vinyl and we've epoxied it and we start to stripe it, your stripes will be completely wonky if you don't have a symmetrical square. So whatever method you choose to do it with, just make sure each one is cut off the same distance and nice and straight, okay? So then all I'm going to do here is I'm going to line that up in the center of my tumbler, and I'm going to make sure that I have it completely straight on all four sides, and I'm just going to use the hinge method here. Normally I don't get this picky about how I apply my vinyl, but it's really important that this one be nice and straight for your lines in the end, because like I said, it will tell on you. If anything is off, your striping is definitely going to tell. So once I have my vinyl laid perfectly in the middle, I'm just going to take some tape and I'm going to line that bottom edge, and I'm going to trim the tape to match the vinyl. So what I'm doing here is I'm just making it really easy for me when we apply the next piece of vinyl to be able to trim around the shape that I already have laid down. The vinyl that I'm working with today, I will have linked, of course, with everything else in the description box, but it is from Mr. Nola's, and they have a very nice, thick, forgiving vinyl, so it makes it really hard to see your seams and edges. So I use that tape as a little extra thickness to help point out where I need to cut. If you lay two pieces of like really high quality thick vinyl over each other, it might be pretty hard to see where you're going. Okay, so the next step here is to cut strips of vinyl to go around the top and bottom edge of your tumbler. So every tumbler you do can be different sizing. Doesn't matter what you choose. You just need to measure from the innermost cut edge on your vinyl to the top or bottom of your tumbler. So I'm going to pause here and I'm going to give you a close-up of what I mean by that. Okay, so this red line indicates where we had cut our vinyl, okay? And the two black points that I've circled are the points you want to measure your vinyl from. So that innermost corner of our angled edge. So you want to take your vinyl strip from the top of the cup to that point, and then your other vinyl strip from that point to the bottom of your cup, okay? So for mine, it measured about 2.5 inches, I think. Maybe it was 2 3/4, but either way, just measure your cup and cut what you need. And that's why I call this the vinyl scrap tumbler, because this is a great way to use up little skinny strips of vinyl that you have that's like a really cute accent pattern, but you don't really have enough of it to do anything except maybe a little stripe or a little belt on a cup. This is a great way to use those up and get your money's worth out of every little piece of vinyl. Okay, y'all, back to the tumbler. So you can see that I've wrapped the bottom strip around from the point that I showed you in the last section. So I've wrapped that bottom strip around, and I'm just using my edge trimmer tool to get a nice perfect bottom on it. Then I'm going to take my fingernail and I'm going to kind of score where that other piece is underneath, and then I'm going to cut around that. Then I can peel that up, including the tape that I'd put underneath it, and reveal that section of vinyl. So now we've got our little pattern there, okay? So I'm going to repeat this process at the top of my tumbler, going from that innermost corner that I showed you around to the other side. So now once I've done my top strip and my bottom strip, I should have two nice symmetrical pieces of vinyl, and we're almost ready to glitter. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take a couple of pieces of tape just to help me have nice straight lines, and I'm going to put them from the bottom corner that we wrapped around, and I'm just going to cut out the section in the middle at the top and the bottom so that we have a little bit of glitter peeking through above and below our nice square side that we put in. So just use a little piece of tape to help you get straight edges. You can eyeball it if you're good like that. I don't trust myself to do it. So once we've done that, we're just going to tape off all of our vinyl and get ready for painting the base paint. Once I have all my vinyl lines taped off and protected for the next step, I will grab my soft tape measure, and I just measure both sides of that rectangle section that I taped off on the back because I freehanded those tapes around that side, and I just want to make sure it's totally even all the way across. I am going to put a decal in it, and so if your edge is slopey on one side, it will be really noticeable when you lay your decal. So I always double check myself there. It's a perfect time to adjust your tape if you need to now, but once you've glittered it, it's going to be harder because you're going to have to try to hide it with striping. So here I come in with my Liquitex paint. And I'm using a bright teal on this because my glitter is very translucent and I want a really vibrant, rich color. So I'm using Misty Mint from Boujie Glitter Boutique and Liquitex Aqua bright green paint. So I'm just going to paint that on, just like you guys have seen me do a million times. You know I like to glitter directly on my acrylic. Please note, you have to use a heavy body or at least a medium body thick paint for this. You cannot use a very thin watery paint because it won't work and you'll be very frustrated. As you can see, I start painting and glittering on my little smallest section. Then I do my rectangle or square, whatever shape you wind up with, depending on the cup size you use on the back. Then I come in and I do my bottom section. So you have three pieces to glitter here. I do mine separately. Once I finish that, I go ahead and I pull my tape, let that paint dry completely. And then you guys will see me come back in with my polyacrylic to seal. Now, anybody that's followed me for more than 5 minutes knows how much I love poly. You see a lot of debates in the craft world about what sealer is better than what, and it really boils down to a personal preference. But we all have the reasons for why we choose the one we like the best. And I will tell you from my experience and my research, poly is completely non-yellowing. In addition to that, nothing holds my glitter in place as well as a coat of polyacrylic painted on with a paintbrush. So I've done spray sealer for years. I've done all the things. Nothing keeps my glitter in place like this does. So I just take a bottle of it and a small paintbrush and paint it. You'll see me just kind of putting the excess up on the end because I got too much on my brush down there. So I'm just going to paint each section. You want to be careful that you're getting all the way up to the edge to fully seal the glitter, but you don't want to drag that paintbrush over the vinyl because there is loose glitter on there that's going to get drug onto the vinyl, and that defeats the entire purpose of sealing. So just kind of be careful. You want a nice coat that saturates it enough, but you don't want it drippy and runny. Because when you set this to the side to stand and dry until it's ready for epoxy, you'll get rivers that run down and drag glitter with it, so that you don't want to soak it. You just want to put a layer on it. And you can see I take my finger and I wipe the edges of my vinyl. That way there's no little strays from my paintbrush where I might have gotten a little over the edge. So I'm going to do one coat. Normally one coat does it. I give it what I call the touch test after it's dry. I take a clean hand. I run it very firmly over the tumbler. If I have any glitter on my hand when I'm done, I know I didn't seal well enough. Very rarely do I need to go in with a second coat, but that is an option if you need to do it. But it dries fairly quickly. You just want to make sure it is completely dry before you epoxy it. So I set it to the side for about 30 minutes or so. And once I'm sure that that's good and completely dry, I'm going to go ahead and throw it on my Dino's Turner, and I'm going to do one thin coat of Mr. Nola's Speed Dry Epoxy. Y'all that know me know my love for Mr. Nola's epoxy runs deep. It dries so crystal clear, it is so gorgeous and shiny, and I get such amazing coverage out of just one thin coat. So for this 20-ounce tumbler, I only did 20 mils. Now it's ready for its striping and I didn't even have to sand. So I'm going to come in with 2 sets of striping like I normally do on most tumblers. And I'm just going to do all of the edges first in my thicker striping. I start with the smallest and work my way to the biggest pieces. That's just my personal preference. You, of course, stripe however feels good for you. The one thing I will say is be careful to miter your corners. So I always leave a little overhang at each of the edges where they meet so that I can trim them perfectly shaped in the end. You don't want to have any wonky edges because it's going to really stand out and throw off the symmetry of this cute little like spatially geometric design that we've come up with, okay? Now the striping does take a minute here. It's a little bit of a labor of love because there's just so many pieces and corners. So I'm going to speed this up for you so that I don't bore you sitting here doing all the striping. But once I've completely laid all of my base striping, which I'm using textured silver vinyl for, then I'm going to go back through and repeat the process with my skinnier pin striping, which I'm using just like a deep purple to match the vinyl. And then again, I want to remind you, it's important here to miter those corners. So again, I leave overlapping. That way I can come back through and I can trim them perfectly where I want them to be so that I have nice crisp edges at all of my little intersection points. So once I have finished with this purple, we are ready to go with our decal. And it is also from Mr. Nola's glitter, just like the vinyl was. And it says, "You grow girl." And I just think it's adorable. So I'm just going to score this and peel it off my sticky sheet here. This is an entire sheet of white backed clear decals so that they can go over any color and they will stand out beautifully. So I went to lay it and then I thought, I don't want to eyeball this because this section is kind of wide around the cup and I want to make sure I center the decal perfectly. So I measured my decal and it was about 2 inches smaller than the space I had to put it in. So all I did here is I put a piece of tape at the 1 inch mark on both sides so that I could perfectly center it using that as my guide rather than eyeball it and peel it up and try again and eyeball it and peel it up and try again. I like to work smarter, not harder. Just lay a little piece of tape as your guide and go with it. So I do like to trim the excess clear from around the edges. It's totally a personal preference. They're going to blend in under epoxy and disappear, so you do not have to do this, but I prefer to trim it as close as I can around the decal itself because I think it just makes it a little less noticeable when you're looking for the edges. So at this point, all of our design work is completely done and we have a super cute tumbler. So I do hit it with a coat of polyacrylic just to seal in all my striping and my decal. I want to make sure that nothing lifts. I want to make sure that there's no repelling anywhere. I don't usually have a lot of problems with those, but I always do a coat of poly just as insurance. So once that thin coat of poly dried, she was ready to go on the turner again for her final coats of epoxy. I did 2 thin coats, 20 mils each. I did the first coat, torched, and walked away. Then I came back about an hour later and did my second 20 mil coat. Same thing, thin coat, torched, walk away. Then I let it fully cure that time. So once that was finished, we were left with this adorable tumbler. I just love this one so much, you guys. It's such a great way to use up vinyl scraps, but it doesn't look like you were trying to use up scraps. I just think it's a fun new take on a sort of geometrical design. So I hope you guys enjoyed watching this as much as I enjoyed making this tumbler for you. If you did, please like and subscribe. Also, come find me in my Facebook group, Add a Bit of Bling Creative Community. It's such a great place to find makers who support other makers. We have tons of lives, we have tutorials, discount codes, and so much more. I hope to see y'all there. Thanks for joining me today, and I hope you have a fantastic day.